Welcome to the Shitty Coffee Diaries. I have my new friend here, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself, and I can't wait for you guys to hear about her practice.
Yeah, hi, my name's Melissa Doss, and I'm the founder of the Lonely Hearts Art Club. It is a community initiative to combat mental health issues through art. So we find alternative approaches to traditional mental health care in the San Marcos area. We have a meeting, we do art, we have a speaker that talks about these different approaches to mental health care,
Right.
and we have a great time. Yeah.
So cool. That's so cool. It's my favorite part when I was reading your messages. I was like, ooh, art.
Yeah, yes. I think that that is probably one of the best ways because art is so broad, right?
Right.
So we were talking about how writing songs can be another approach to kind of working through some mental health issues, some feelings that you might have that you just, you know, you don't want to go to a therapist. Who wants to go to a therapist? Who wants to pay?
Right.
Talk to a stranger who doesn't care about you, doesn't remember anything.
Right.
And it's like, it's going to cost me $6,000 just to catch him up,
Right.
and 2 years to catch him up with what's
Right.
happened
Right.
to me in my life. And so that was a lot of fun. We, uh, touch on, we did art therapy. We had John Lasser and Alyssa. I forget her last name. They're two local art therapists
Here in town?
yes, here in town.
Okay.
And they talked about how so much of your subconscious comes out in your art. So we've done things like playing some music, kind of clearing the mind, sitting there, a bunch of different mediums, markers, paints, all anything you think of, and you just kind of draw what comes out, and then we look at your picture. And we'll do simple things like, okay, we used a lot of red.
Right.
Red means this.
Right.
You use this shape a lot.
Right.
Over here, did you notice you drew this? And then again, it's free. It's something you can do by yourself with a friend,
Right. Right.
and incorporate art.
That's so great. I think it's so cool.
Thank you.
So how did you get here? Like what tell me a little snippet, like your story, like what brought you to a point of one, deciding to quit, two, deciding that art was going to be your path. Like what brought you there?
I've been using hard drugs since I was around 12 years old. It started with cocaine. It was like, hey, do you want to get skinny? And I was like, yeah, because like being healthy was like big back then, right?
Right.
And it's a long time ago, but I'm not going to give away my age. Um, so I started doing cocaine and then got into modeling, which ended up into dancing and sex work and harder drugs,
Right.
pills led to heroin, cocaine led to shooting up coke, and
Right.
there's just all spiral. So how did it change? What changed in me? One day I was in the bathroom and I couldn't find a vein that I could shoot into because they were all collapsed or
Right.
infected. And I was praying for a good vein. And I was like, oh my gosh, I caught myself praying to God, right? Uh, for a good vein so I can get high. And there was just a shift. And it wasn't like instant. I wasn't sober immediately and just, but I got out of the bathroom and the rest of that night when I used again, it didn't feel right. And I was
Right.
kind of like, I don't know, maybe I'll just go to sleep. Then the next day, it was like, I don't know, maybe I don't want it today. And then 2 days later, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll do some. Do it. It doesn't feel good.
Right.
Doesn't feel right. And one day I was driving to pick my daughter up from school, and I mean, I'm very new sober, and I pull up on a wreck. It was two girls coming back because I lived right by Mexico, the border. Two teenage girls had been drinking all day, and they flipped their vehicle, and it was pretty horrific. But I was there, and I got to hold the girl's hand until the ambulance came, and she wasn't good. But I got to comfort her in her time of need. I felt like that was a message from God saying you are good enough to show other people my love. And then it was just opportunity after opportunity to help other people.
Right.
And the more I worried about other people and how I can help other people, the less I will focus on the problems in my life.
Mhm.
And that gets you somewhere. You can't stay there. You can't continuously just focus on helping other people because you can't give what you don't give yourself, right?
Right.
And that's a problem a lot with a lot of people wanting to get sober and helping other people. I want to share this and I want to do that. You still have to like learn boundaries
Mhm.
and you have to take care of yourself first.
Right, right. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Um, so no rehab, you just it was a
No, and I've been
slow
in rehab a million times. AA, NA, all the in and out programs, like none of that worked.
right.
It was all band-aids and it was always about money and never really about fixing me or helping me. And I was like on so many psych meds, state hospitals, the
Mhm.
whole nurse ratchet, stabbing you with something and you don't wake up for 3 days later and then
Mhm.
you don't, you signed your rights over to the state and no, your family doesn't know where you are. There's this horrible things that
Yep.
happen to people when they get in that system. None of it ever helped me. The thing is, people come to me and go, "How do you get sober?" Like it's a magic word or
Right.
wand or
Right.
help me get my kids sober. And I'm like, I don't know why I got sober. I don't know why I stayed sober and other people didn't. I know that there's phases of sobriety and a lot of people can't get through them because they're very painful. A lot of people are like, with AA, it's like, you got to ask for forgiveness. Well, it's easy to say please
Mhm.
forgive me, but there's a whole lot of other stuff behind that, right?
Right.
So it's like, what if they don't want to forgive you? And you have to learn to be okay with that. Then there's forgiving yourself.
I think it starts
That's
there.
yeah, that is the hardest. Forgiving yourself for everything that you did. And of course you can do things like we do where you wrap yourself up into helping others, but that's always gonna sneak up and be
Oh, don't
back.
even think for 1 second I don't cry myself to sleep every night.
Yes, yeah. I did that for a really, really long
Yep.
time. And then you have to get to a point where you say, that doesn't serve me anymore
Right.
either. There's my daughter was like, it's hard for me to be around you, mom, because we're talking about healing relationships with our children or whatever. Like, I can't be around you because you bring me down. You always are apologizing. You're always so timid and crying and I'm sorry and and this and you're bringing up things from the past. She's like, why can't we just be in the moment now?
Right.
Because that's not who you are anymore. And she forgave me and was like, get over it many, many years. And even to this day, it'll creep in. And I'm like, why am I doing that?
I
Saying
still
that?
do it too. And I think it's I don't know, part of me thinks there's a little healthy to that. I think that like the further away I get from my disease, the more I see myself, um, the mom, the partner, the friend, the daughter, the sister, and then a lifetime of choosing just myself without realizing. Like we don't even know it when we're in it, right? It's just
Right.
like everything else. It's one tiny little thing, and then another, and all of a sudden you are this thing that you loathe. Like my truth is, I have hard times even now, 14 years later, after doing all of this work. I have full days where I can't look myself in the mirror. And part of that is I have a daughter still using out there and doesn't want anything to do with me. And so there's no resolution. There's no, like, until she dies or comes home, it's just a dangling broken heart. And as much as like I've done the work to know that I didn't do that by myself, that I raised two daughters very close in age, one is okay and one is not. Like there's a lot of self choice that comes in, there's a lot of other things that come in. But I will never forgive myself. I will never forgive myself for the way I let her down. And there's no amount of therapist or anyone else who are going to tell me to do that. Because the second I decide that it wasn't that bad, I will change the way that I am parenting the other two.
Yeah.
And I believe with my whole fucking heart that it is my job to be the mom to them now that I
Yes.
wasn't then.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's what we do also in our lives, like with your sober living and with the lonely hearts, is like, I'm going to rectify the past by current now helping others, being present, not making those mistakes. I'm going to work so hard to not do that, not be that person, and not be selfish. And by helping others, I'm doing that. I'm in small ways, in the fabric of humanity and time.
Mm-hmm.
This I'm trying to stitch that hole that I made. It might not be with that person, and that's very painful and very hard, especially with a child where you're like, their mental anguish, what came from my behaviors. Like, that's a whole person with a whole experience on this earth that's a negative because I was selfish and self-centered
Yeah.
and did for me. And you can't, my daughter has BPD and that affects everything.
Right.
Her jobs, her friendships, her relationships, how she feels about herself, how she feels about her place in this world. And that came from me.
I get it.
And it's excruciating.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the part about being sober, that being sober doesn't mean the magic wand about waved and all you have, no more problems, and life is going to be peachy and everybody's going to look, big happy family. It's like, oh no, this is when shit gets real.
It's when it gets so real.
Yes. And
I
it's like, because you're not hiding and numbing from it. The thing about using is, because we are masking, we're hiding things that we cannot touch. And in my sobriety, it's like almost every year where you get a chance to address what you were running from all along, and you get to hopefully have some kind of closure or work through it enough. But it's like, yeah, sober, I'm still dealing with childhood trauma every day. Like, being sober doesn't, but it means that I just have to actually face it
right.
and do something about it. Um, and that's kind of,
It's harder. It's harder. Like
yeah,
it's
that's why we use.
yeah.
Using's easy.
I mean,
Living's hard.
we live in an or drug and
Oh,
alcohol or
yes.
escaping, right, in general.
Yes.
Because I mean, like, I love people, but I know a lot of people whose life would be so much better if they'd get off their fucking phone. Like, some of my closest people in my life, like, that don't have savings, that don't have what they need for the future. And they spend such a huge chunk of their life on that phone. And I know what they're doing. They're self-soothing. They're trying to escape anything that's here to be in someone else's, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, their addiction's as bad as mine.
Yeah.
Is it not hurting? It's hurting them the most, obviously. It doesn't hurt the same as alcoholism. But I've seen it with food. I've
Oh,
seen
yeah.
it with
Sex.
sex. I've seen it with, culty type behavior.
Shopping,
Yeah,
culty.
anything.
Yes.
It's
It's
so
all about
easy.
balance.
Yeah. Addiction is like, I think we have stigmatized addiction, right? To see it as, the people under the bridge and the whatever, and then not paying attention to the actual statistics and numbers, right? Like, more than half of America is addicted to something. And that is a very conservative number because that's not accounting phones, food, anything. We're just talking about substances. More than half of America is dependent. And so,
I think it's, I think so much of the state of our mental health kind of came out of the Industrial Revolution, right? Where we're just bred and educated and kind of formed into be this worker where you work at one job for 50 years. And then this is the American dream because you can buy a four-door car and that means that your life is great and you're in a neighborhood. And every time we do something that gets us further away from our natural being, and I know it sounds silly, but from hunter-gatherers, the further we get away from living like a hunter-gatherer, more miserable and disaligned, because evolved, like, our brains, our bodies were
yeah.
made to do and live
Yeah, we were
in
not
this,
meant to be
not
this
to do,
stimulated.
no,
We were not meant to be this stimulated.
no, at all. And everything is a prescription. And the food we eat makes us sick. And in more ways than indigestion and being, gaining weight, it makes us mentally ill. And
Yep.
then we have all the social media. Like, you can just go on and on and
Yeah.
on and on. And that's why, I don't know for you, but I'm a tree hugger.
Mm,
I
100%.
kayak. I need to get out in the water. I need to give me a river. I need to get away from people.
My favorite part of sobriety was I don't know if we have a very similar past, right? The sex stuff, like we have already discussed this, but my favorite part of sobriety, I had been fucked up since I was 11, right? And until 38. So a life without it is not something my brain could compute, right? So when I first got sober, like I didn't know how to date. I had never, ever in my whole life had sex sober. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
And I'm gonna kind of go up and that was like all your relationships are based on sex and manipulation, and it's hard to have like when I got into my first real like sober, I was like, this is boring. Something's wrong. He doesn't love me enough. We're not fighting and then having crazy sex, and we're not drug fueled nights and this trauma bonding, and
Right.
like I was like, something's wrong. This is way too boring and calm. But then it allowed me to learn that I have so much more inside of me. When loving another person in a romantic way is so much more complex. And
Yeah.
there's so much more to it. And it gave me time to learn that and to heal. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, sex, like learning everything. I tell people, a lot of people don't know about arrested development,
Right.
the psychological term where your brain stops kind of maturing when you start to use a hard drug or
Right.
drink. So a lot of times, another reason why it's hard for people to stay sober is because
They're in their child brain.
they are in a trauma. So you're still making very bad choices, which lead to wanting to use again.
Right.
And so it took me. I was still doing crazy stuff, dressing way too young, doing acting like I was still in my 20s. We got sober at the same age. I think it
Right.
was 37, 38 when I got
38.
sober, too. And the lifetime of it, but it's still just crazy behavior, acting out like
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know, like now, like it's so cringy to think about. And I was like, and I was sober.
I kept a vlog, right, when I first got sober, and I didn't realize the brain development thing at all. And so I was blogging every day, right? And so now we're a decade later. Well, I didn't know what pause was. Pause is post-acute withdrawal syndrome, right? And so I started, when I went to rehab, I didn't want to do the church route. I needed to understand how my brain worked and what was wrong with it. Why since 11 have I not been comfortable in a room? Like, what is happening? And so during this, like, that whole process, so what I tell these guys a lot of time is so we started using around the same ages. And anytime you're using 3 times a week or more, you start to do significant brain damage, right? Because our brains are wired to do one of two things when they wake up in the morning. One is repair, two is grow, depending on what we did the day before, right? So if somebody has been using since they were 15 and they have used the majority of the time for that, their brain has been in repair mode enough to keep them alive. And any 12-year-old can fucking get to the next level of school, right? Or work. Like that's getting promotions or whatever. That can just be people pleasing. But the mental part stays the same, right? And so like these guys, when they move in, the very first thing I tell them is you are going to behave and act like, depending on who they are, a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old. I know this. You may not know this. Let me show you how this works and what it's going to take for your brain to repair, right? Because it's going to be up to 5 years of uncomfortable. Every 30 days, for the first year, you're going to have weird dreams. You're going to have, just feel uncomfortable. These are when you're going to be at the highest risk of relapse. After the first year, it's going to happen about every year, depending on how long. Like for me, it was about 7 years because I used such a long time of my life. But the cool thing is, I read these blogs now, all these years later, and the first, 3 years, I sound like a goddamn 15-year-old. The world is sucky. Everybody, I'm a victim. Oh my God, it's terrible, right? And then there starts to be a change in the writing.
Yes.
Right? Like a change in the tone, a change in the thought process. And it's been cool because I wrote every day for all those years. I could actually see the ebb and flow and the brain repair later.
Yes. I find for me, I went back to school to get my nursing
Right.
license. And for me, I feel like learning something every day helps build neuron pathways. So there are a lot of drugs that, like meth,
Right.
your brain will not heal from ever.
Right.
They're just permanent brain damage. But it doesn't mean that
You can't renew things.
right. So you just make, okay, so it's like a road where there was a landslide. Well, you can't go here. Well, we're just gonna make another road and kind of just go around it. And when you learn new things, you are making these new pathways around the brain. And so you can't fix the damage, but you can get that brain health back,
Right.
and that, those all cylinders firing and things comprehension and
Right.
things making sense. So one thing that for people, I suggest learning something new every day, giving yourself grace, unplugging, and doing for others
Right.
and helping others, because again, when you're not focused on, there's always somebody else that's worse. And right? You can't take the past back.
Right.
So what are you going to do with the future? You're going to, what good can you make out of all this pain that you went through and that you caused? And what are you going to do with that? And that's when things like your sober living program, my Lonely Hearts Art Club, and there's lots of initiatives in this
Right.
town that are like that. There's, like we were talking about, there's always something at the Waking the Dead, Wake the Dead coffee shop. There's always something there. I love that place. But it's how you use your trauma. My children, I told them, you guys have every reason to be a drug addict and a loser. Nobody would, they'd hear your story. Nobody would go, I get it. Here's a drink.
Right.
You know, or you can use that to be great.
Yep.
So what are you going to do with what you got?
Right.
Basically.
It's it's the hardest thing as a mom. No, it's not. Actually, I find it to be the greatest honor of my life to be the twist in their story. Like what a plot twist we were for our kids,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
think about it. Because had we had stayed on those paths, we would have no one to apologize to. And their kids and their kids and their kids will keep doing the same thing. And so I think there's a certain amount of like warrior ass courage needed to take this particular journey, because you're standing up against everything you were raised to be. You're changing generational patterns. You're saying, I'll take all of the pain that my mom, that my grandma, that my great grandma, whoever didn't have the words for or the skills to address. I'll take it all. I'll blame my whole self for everything that happened to my children. I will never blame anyone else. I'll take it all. I'll wear it, and then I'll fix it. And that way Noah, my little grandson, will never know a world like this. And he doesn't. Like, he's never been to outside of my mom's memorial. That was the last time he was around people drinking. And that was 8, 9 years ago. We just made a conscious decision that his childhood would be different than the girls.
Yeah.
And we just weren't going to, we were going to make it more uncomfortable for him to be around it than comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Because the more you're comfortable around drunkenness and whatever, the more acceptable it is, right?
Yeah.
And so, we go out with our friends and they're slurring and they're falling down. And like medically, what's happening is they're right at the verge of a fucking stroke.
Yeah.
A real live one. If we were at the library and they were doing that, we'd call 911. But here we're going to get a video of it
Yeah.
and make it fun, right? And so we just made my daughter and I both looked at each other and we're like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like, we want him to just be able to do things, celebrations and stuff where it's just not there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 11. There's no reason for alcohol to be at his party,
Yeah.
But
And it's so hard to, drug addiction is horrible, but there's this, and alcohol was never a problem of mine. It just kind of always put me to sleep. It's hard because it's everywhere. At least with, like, okay, you're on meth, you gotta go find the dealer. Gotta worry about the cops. You gotta, you're all high and nervous driving and got
Right.
coke or whatever it is that you're doing, but alcohol is like, it's an HEB. It's
Oh, you
the
can't get
birthday
away from
party.
it.
It's at everywhere.
You can't get
You
away from it.
every sports thing, like,
Yeah.
it's just everywhere.
Yeah, you can't get away from it. I became my first 5 years in recovery, I was so resentful. I couldn't go in a convenience store without seeing 2,000 plus micro ads everywhere, right? I can't drive
Mhm.
home from work without passing 6, 7 billboards that say, "This is waiting for you when you get home." I couldn't go to holidays with my family without relapsing on the way home, and I did that consistently for years. Like, I couldn't do it. I felt too left out. I didn't quit drinking because I didn't wanna party. I quit drinking because I was gonna die, and so seeing people party in front of you when you're freshly sober is fucking uncomfortable. And then you're
Yes.
embarrassed, so you don't wanna say anything, right?
And then also too, it's like, it gets brought up. Other people, they don't mean it, but they're like putting a spotlight on you,
Mhm.
like, oh, don't, here, you want to drink? Oh, don't give it to them. They're sober. Oh, they just got sober. Like, oh, so and so's coming over. Like, don't be drinking, and then every, it's just awkward. Like,
It's all so
it,
awkward,
it really
and I
is.
can't even find the right answer for it,
There's a
right?
song by Noah. I know I'm saying his name wrong. I'm gonna call it Noah Cohen. I know I'm saying the name wrong, but he says something like, come over. We got some orange juice in the kitchen that we bought for the children because we know you got sober. Or like, I don't know, there's some words or something like that. And I was like, yeah, that sucks. Like, it's like, don't invite me to the party, or let's let's reframe. And that's another thing. It's hard. You have to get rid of so many relationships because they're triggers.
Mhm,
Um, and it takes somebody that really, really loves you, that says, okay, well, we're gonna reframe how we do things, how we
mhm,
enjoy each other's company. So we're not gonna go hanging in a bar. Now let's go do yoga in the park.
right,
You know, um, I'm going to change how I interact with you, even though for 20, 30 years
right,
we drank together or we used together
yep.
or, you
I
know,
had I had exactly 2 friends. So, before I quit drinking, I had a whole lot of friends, but only 2 out of all those people came with me to the new life. And it was not that they don't drink, they drink. They don't drink around me. They invite me to do other things.
yeah,
They sit with me. They saw a value in me outside of this superficial person I was. It's the ones that, like, when you're 5 days out of rehab or sitting there with a beer in their hand, hey, how you doing? And you're just kind of like, I don't think you love me even a little.
yeah,
Um,
because they don't, because it's misery loves company kind of.
well, and there's also, it's not even, I mean, I have lots of people who love me who I know they do because they're related to me or whatever, they kinda have to, who have 0, like, awareness around how weird this is holding it in front of me when I just came out of rehab,
Yeah.
around how uncomfortable it might be for me. They just have their own dependency issues and have their own, like, to me, it feels at this point in the game so easy, right? Like, I'm not gonna put this fucking coffee in before you as a person, like, I'll just not drink it,
Yeah,
you know?
right,
Well, bring you a soda and I'll drink one with you, you
right.
know? Like,
My, one of the things that happened to me after I got sober was my husband couldn't, and he lost his battle, um, no longer here. He used to pick me up from the mental hospitals, and get like psych ward
right.
from the hospitals, and then in a big old bag of cocaine,
Mhm.
and he knew I was shooting up, and um, I had needles and stuff everywhere, and I wore long sleeve shirts for 6 years,
Right.
pants, no matter what, and it was just it's just here years. And when I got sober too, I'd still be taking care of him because he was, needing someone to help him and take care of him. And it was still like, oh, here's some Coke. I'm like, why would you?
Right.
Why?
Yeah. It's
Like,
misery loves company.
yeah.
It is. And it's toxic, right? Like, but I think that I appreciate what you're doing. Like, I'm excited. I'm excited to be a part of the art club. I'm
Yes.
to bring it back here. I'm excited to see what you've done with the pain. I think the reason I call it the Shitty Coffee Club is that I believe we've all been handed that shitty coffee, whether we were in jail or in hospice waiting rooms or whatever. Shitty coffee just comes with trauma, right? And so
And I do love that. When I read that on your website, it made me like tear up and it brought me back literally. to all the cups of shitty coffee held in my
Man,
lap.
think about it.
And you smell the hospital smell, or you remember the padded room,
Mm.
or waiting in line for your pill cup, and
So
just
I got this scar on my chin. I was like 13 in line for my pills, and I fucking passed out
oh no,
in the med room at Shoal Creek.
battle wounds.
Fuck.
How'd you pass out?
So too many meds.
Yeah.
They had
There
me
you
so
go.
drugged up.
Yes, too many meds.
Too
Yes.
little.
Yes.
Oh God. Bad mental health care versus art. There we
Yes,
go.
there we go. Absolutely.
So tell me, where do we go from here? Like
Yeah,
how do
so
we?
we're gonna collab, and we're gonna bring the Lonely Hearts here.
Okay.
And collab will meet once a month. We'll have different guest speakers, just same format that I've always done. It's open to the public. I'll do a lot of advertising, Instagram, Facebook. We'll put out
And we'll
flyers.
put it on ours.
We'll put it on the site. Yay! And we'll just have a new home here in San Marcos.
Yep.
So if anyone out there is interested in being a guest speaker at one of our meetings, we've had equine therapists, that's horse therapy. We've had art therapists. We've had musicians. We've had comedians. I'm looking for some Reiki, some sound
Okay.
bowl, any kind of art. If you've used something in your life that has helped you in your mental health journey, and you want to share that with other people, you can find me at Lonely Hearts Art Club, on Instagram and Facebook. Art supplies and everything are free. You'll do an art project that kind of ties into what the guest speaker is talking about. You get to take that home with you. It's all ages, but some of the topics tend to get a little bit dicey, because we do some group discussions. You don't force anything on anybody. You don't want to do art. You just want to sit there. You don't want to talk. Come on.
Right.
So I'm looking really
Sorry.
excited about
I am too.
this.
Thank you so
Yes,
much for
thank you
coming
so
on my
much for
stupid
having
show.
me. That was not stupid at all. You had a reaction because what you're doing matters. Because your heart and your intentions and all the things that you've done have led up to this. And the universe I think people are ready for this kind
I
of
think
stuff.
so too.
And like we talked about this, there's this awakening.
Right.
And there's so many of us that were drug-induced zombies in chains. And I feel like there's this whole, like, and like I said, awakening. Everybody's like searching for these answers and this like broader understanding. And we're gonna talk to each other, and we're gonna lean on each other. And San Marcos is amazing because it is such a community-based community.
Right.
And there's always people helping each other here. So
I've never found a town that I fell in love with the way I found it. This is my home. I don't think I would ever live anywhere else in Texas. From the day I got here. We literally have been here for 2 years as sober living. I had one complaint the entire time. Do you know how rare that is? You can't build sober livings in people's backyards.
No, you can't, because they help with
They throw a fucking fit.
Yeah. Oh,
not in my backyard, they
do.
do. And I've watched it over and over again. Nobody in this town embraced us from day one. We put a call out for anything and people show up. We do our best to show up for the town as well. Not just the people here, but, if we see a need that we can fill, we're quick to be like, hey, we've got a mattress, or hey, we got that, or whatever.
Your community gardens
The community gardens.
And your spots that are just there so people can find some peace and grounding.
Yeah. It's I want us to be a hub of, it'll take time, obviously. We're only 2 years old. But I want people in San Marcos that are having a lousy Friday and thinking about going to a bar to be like, fuck that, I'm gonna go to the Vibe. I know everybody will be hanging out. There's probably gonna be a fire.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I want that to be the long-term vision. I want it to be a long-term community, not a flipping heads and beds.
There's a lot of bars in San Marcos that do like a trivia night and bingo night and stuff like that. I would love to kind of maybe get together and do something like that here, where it is, again, it's like the sober
version of, because you can have I'm so much more fun sober.
Yeah.
I'm so much more fun.
Me too.
I'm not
picking bugs out of my skin.
Yeah.
I'm grinding my teeth.
I'm a 48-year-old tree climber. I didn't even know I was a tree climber. I love climbing trees. I love running Spartan races. I love
Since I've been sober, learned how to kayak. I climbed a mountain. I started the Lonely Arts Art Club. I've done all kinds of cool adventures that I never would have done because of I'd rather be
the
sitting there.
shackles.
Yes.
You were chained.
Chained in the room, can't have any light. I've been thinking about this too lately. The aversion to light when you're high, or you're just like, I mean, you know how it is when you're coming down and there's that one speck of light in the room, and it reminds me of like the hell that we're in. That even the small amount of light is, I mean, you could talk about like demons and God and all that kind. You could put it in those terms or whatever, but the aversion to light when you're using just has been striking me lately.
It's a real thing. I mean, think about the strip clubs. There ain't a window in one of those places. Why? Why do you think that is? It's so that we can create a false illusion, have the black lights, have the whatever, and there's no reminder of the outside world. You know, if I say it all the time, like, God, what I wouldn't do to go into one of the strip bars at 1 o'clock in the morning and then turn the lights on.
Oh God. It's like all the roaches, like
the bruises and the tracks, the things you can't see because of the women who've been abused, the men, how gross they actually would look in real light, or all the cum and stuff on the chairs. Like, you would see it all. You would see it all if somebody turned the lights on.
I ran gentlemen's clubs on Bourbon Street for 15 years. We had very, very high-end clubs, and then we had very low-end clubs. And we could have another whole 2-hour podcast about strip club stories. Not a nice place. Not a very hygienic place either.
I know. I literally, for years, I've just had this like amazing, like, God, what I wouldn't do.
That would be so funny.
And then have somebody at one of the tables with a camera recording the reactions of everybody when all of a sudden they go from fantasy to reality.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
Yes, that would be so funny.
I think we should.
I think we should.
Don't tell anybody.
We're coming for your strip club.